Welcome, Hayley, to Full Out. I'm so excited you are here. We've known each other for what feels like a zillion years, and I'm just so pumped. You are an actor, you're a creator, you're a voice teacher, you are a multifaceted human being, and I'm really excited to talk about this work that you do with freeing the voice. Now, we were talking before we hit record, and I am just so excited because this feels so in alignment with the work that I do around empowering women in standing for their choices, in voicing their desires, voicing their boundaries. So I'm so curious how this conversation is going to go. I know it's going to be magic. So welcome to Full Out.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're so aligned, and I'm excited to figure out just all the ways that our work connects and woohoo. And it is kind of wild to think back to when we first met. It feels like several lifetimes ago, and
Yes,
so
lifetimes.
much growth since then. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Cool. I'm so pumped. So I would love for you to share your journey to finding your voice.
Yeah. So I grew up doing a lot of dance, another thing we have in common, and not just the practical ways in which dance left me with a body that didn't really breathe fully, and just the practical challenges of that, and starting to do shows in college and wanting to sing and expand out of just being a dancer, going, oh my God, my teachers would be like, you're really not breathing much at all. Do you want to explore that? And that became just a years long journey of freeing the breath, reclaiming my inherent breath capacity, but also on a deep level with voice, just what do I have to say? What are the opinions that I wish to share? And the ways in which my dance programming and my familial programming really suffocated a lot of that. It just sort of becoming this perfectionistic, there's a right and a wrong, and not wanting to get things right, get things wrong or make a mistake. And so it was kind of amazing to me to discover how deep the layers went in terms of the work of reclaiming my voice and freeing my voice.
Yeah, there was so much in there. Like, first, I'm thinking of the anatomy and the way that we teach dancers of
Yeah.
like pulling in and squeezing and just
Yep.
alignment and whoo, the idea of breathing fully. And I think of just women in general. I think of obviously the fitness space as well, where we're taught to pull your belly button to your spine and connect your rib cage to your pelvic bones and pull everything into your center, and how that just constricts and restricts. And
Yes.
I feel like every woman feels this. Like, we, in an anatomical woman's body, we have curves. We have
Mhm.
softness in the lower pelvis. And I know this is something for me. I remember the first time I saw someone online softening through her core and saying,
Mm.
like, this is my feminine body. Like, there's ovaries in here. There's a uterus in here. There's fallopian tubes. There's anatomy
Yeah.
here that is not
Yeah.
meant to be squeezed and tucked and pulled. And her being in her softness and her fullness, ooh, it just activated. I have chills right now. It activated something within me that was like, oh, wait, I haven't been taught to explore this. And it's a big part of now my work when we're working in the embodiment space and really being in the sensuality and the full physicality of the body. You guys, I know you can't
Yeah.
see right now, but if you're listening, both Hayley and I are like moving
Yeah.
at our
Feel
ribs. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so for me, I feel that in like the lower, pelvic bowl, womb space area, but I am curious even more about the breath. Like, what are we looking at when we're looking at freeing our breath in the body?
Yeah. So first of all, your lungs they're pear shaped. So the top part of the lung is smaller than the bottom part, and they're kind of tilted. So for those of us who, for any number of reasons, have fallen into a habit of thinking, if I'm going to breathe, I'm going to go up for breath, sort of up and down breathing. you're really missing out on more than half of your capacity for breath, which is the life of you. And breath also, by the way, being the fuel of your emotional life. When we think of something we wish to say aloud, automatically the breath gets activated as the voice gets ready to come through. So the breath contains our thoughts, our passions, our feeling. So if we're stuck in only breathing up and down, we're really doing a disservice. And so a big part of the work I do is reuniting with breath dropping into the middle of the body where the diaphragm is. And I feel like that word gets thrown around a lot. It's basically like a parachute in the middle of your body. It's attached all around the base of your ribs, and it's filled with neural activity. You know, we do a lot of thinking and processing down in the gut. Your primary breath center rests right on top of your gut brain, which I find so gorgeous and profound. And then right on top of your diaphragm rests your heart. So to say something from the bottom of your heart is actually sort of true, which I find
Wow.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sort of like what you were saying, the amazing somatic modalities you've been exploring. Yeah, like getting back into our animal bodies, reuniting with these lower places in the body. And it can be a vicious cycle. When we're nervous or anxious, we tend to breathe up here. That perpetuates nerves and anxiety, which keeps us breathing up here. So a big part of the process is reelasticizing the intercostal muscles, reuniting with the diaphragm, just like reminding the body. It's all about reminding, because we're born breathing this way.
Yeah.
If you see babies breathe, it's almost freaky how much their ribs are moving and their bellies are inflating, and we get all fucked up with social conditioning and all this stuff.
Wow. Wait, I'm like, okay, who has a baby I can go look at? Because
Yeah.
it's so funny. Like, I talk about kid metaphors all the time, baby metaphors all the time. And I I love that this literally is a through line. Like that is who we are before the conditioning, before we're taught to do something different, to be something different. And so of
Mm-hmm.
course they breathe differently. My mind is already being blown. I want to come back to what you were saying just about where the placement of the diaphragm is, and what I'm connecting as I'm hearing this is that's essentially your solar plexus chakra. That is your power chakra. That is your
Wow.
confidence, your really your power center. And so most of us don't know how to properly, or I'm not going to say properly, I'm going to say maybe effectively use
Yes.
the diaphragm and the lungs to their fullest capacity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is just about it's sort of a mind fuck for a while in the work at first, because there's this dissonance between what is familiar in terms of how I'm breathing and being in my body versus what is actually natural and efficient. And it takes a lot of it
Yeah.
takes time to start to square those things. And I mean, we could go on and on about the ways that our social programming, negative voices, critical voices start to live in the body. And the voice happens in the body. So
Mhm.
as we internalize criticism, or just, I mean, you were making me think earlier, Sam, just about the whole idea of people as adults just starting to go through the world trying to take up as little space as possible. I'm going
Mm.
to hold my breath. I'm going to narrow my shoulders. I'm going to, that not wanting to be seen. And all of that is really going to influence how you're breathing. I mean, my teacher, Kristen Linklater, would say anytime you're kind of holding your breath, part of you is absent. Part of you has left the room
Wow.
whenever we're sort of managing our breath on that deep level. So it's really powerful stuff.
It's yeah, I'm thinking of as you're speaking into, not taking up space and how we're taught to be small. And I'm thinking of all of the times that I even catch myself holding my breath where,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's like a constant
Yeah.
invitation, I feel like, to like be here now, to be in
Yeah.
my body, to be in this experience, whether it is being in the stress or the anxiety, or if it's being in the fullest expression of love or being in connection with the person in front of me.
Yes, 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 yes. And your use of the word softening earlier really landed with me. I find that word so useful. Like, can I soften into what's going on right now instead of feeling like I'm constantly perched on top of the moment at hand, holding
Yeah.
my breath and trying to just, you know, manufacture how I want to be seen or just all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I loved before we got on is that you said voice work becomes this self-exploration. Can you talk
Mhm.
a little bit more about freeing the voice and how it also connects with freeing the person?
Yeah, so we're born with this we're these completely expressive beings. You hang out with a 2-year-old and there ain't no filter going on. It's wonderful, for better or worse. Woo! They're screaming and laughing and then they're crying and you're like, "Oh my God." But it's beautiful to behold. And then as we go through the conditioning process, starting to go to school, going through adolescence, we learn all these messages around what ways of expressing myself is being rewarded and what is being punished. And that speaks to deep survival needs. Am I feeling connected to the tribe, or am I not? Oh, I'm being rejected and shamed right now. I mean, this is real, like, deep needs that we have to feel like we're accepted and loved and we're okay. So we hear these things growing up. We start to say those things to ourselves, things like, "Oh my God, you're so loud and annoying. Just, can you just be quiet?" Or, "People should be seen and not heard." Or "That's such a stupid idea. Why would you say that?" Just those things that really sting. We start to say those things to ourselves and go, "Well, I better be careful about being unfiltered next time because it's going to lead to me feeling humiliated or rejected or shamed." And so we really take notes on all that criticism, and then that starts to live in the body. And then we become adults and we start to go, "Well, fuck, why do I feel so stuck now when I do have something powerful to say?" And I think that's what's so powerful about this work, is because, of course, it's not about going back to throwing tantrums and being the toddler. Like, we need to function in the world. We need to have tact. Like, that's all well and good, but to not feel like we are stuck in all of that restrictive social conditioning, and that we are once again available to make choices, that I can feel deep down in my primal body what it is that I have to say and what I think, and then my intellect can shape those impulses, uh, has been really powerful for me. And I started to discover that, of course, I started this work as an actor, just wanting to be resonant and take up space on stage. But I started to really realize, oh my God, this is very much resonating into my life, and to really have to take a look at, what do I think about things, and could I actually speak up in this uncomfortable moment and say the truth? That I really, really had to work through those things, those deeper psychological things, in addition to the more practical, just, am I breathing? Is my body riddled with tension that is diminishing my voice?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. So we're talking about the breath, but then we're really talking about the voice as well. And I remember, for those of you that don't know, I was like strict dancer. I had zero desire to sing, to speak. I actually had massive, massive anxiety around speaking on stage. God forbid someone would hear me sing in the car or the shower. Like, my
Wow.
voice was terrifying. It actually makes me really emotional how I spent a lot of my life. And I have so many of these random stories of like going to the audition for the agent that was specifically for contemporary dancers. And I made it through that round and they said, okay, this number, and this number, you're going to come and sing. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not here for the musical theater audition. I'm here for the contemporary. And them still saying, yeah, you get to still come and sing. And I had a full panic attack, like almost throwing up in like Pearl Studios. And I'm
Wow.
watching these other girls change into their outfits because I was a dancer. I literally wore like booty shorts and a lacy bra top. I didn't have real clothes with me. So I was sitting there in just full panic. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? And the version of me back then, went in still in my clothes because I literally had, sweatpants, or I'm wearing this little outfit. So I wore the outfit and I went into the room and I was honest. I'm like, I don't have a song. And they're like, well, why don't you sing Happy Birthday? And we know Happy Birthday is like one of the most challenging things to sing. It's not easy. I was terrified. And there was something really really, I'm trying to find the right word, expansive, triggering, challenging around being basically in my underwear, having to sing, doing something that
Yeah.
already felt so challenging, like, that is burned into my memory, and I just remember leaving and just crying and feeling so terrible and so uncomfortable and not understanding why. I
Yeah.
just had this irrational fear of speaking, and I had
Yeah.
one other story of booking this job at a theater Aspen, which is this really cute little theater
Mhm.
in the most beautiful city in Aspen over the summer. It was awesome. And
Oh,
it was a dance show, and it was myself and the main guy, and the director decided that at the very end she wanted, even though we danced the whole time and there were four singers that were basically telling the story, she wanted the my partner and I to speak in one of these things. And it was like, three lines. There was not a lot of speaking, but for me
yeah.
to speak in front of an audience was terrifying. And I remember the
Yes.
first time we practiced this in the theater, there were people like working on lights or costumes and doing things. And I spoke and someone started laughing. And I know they weren't laughing at me, they were in a conversation laughing. But
Yeah.
I, in that moment, was like, they're laughing at me. And I left and I like broke
Oh my
down
God.
crying. I mean, I have full chills right now. Like, these
Me too.
experiences
Yeah.
were so massive for me. And so
Yeah.
then years later, I'm going to bring this all around full circle, but years later, when I got to make the decision to actually own my voice in my marriage and say, this isn't working for me. And I we need to separate. I need to be done with this, was such a huge, huge thing for me,
Yes.
given this history of fear. And I really believe, fully believe, that this fear around my voice was something that I got to really heal and work on in this lifetime. Like, I know my ex-husband and I had a soul contract. Like, we were supposed to do this together. And because of our relationship, he allowed me to find my voice and allowed me to find that internal power after so much fear and so much, I mean, probably past life trauma and current life trauma and like
Yeah.
all the things. So
Yeah.
it just felt really potent to share in this space, in this conversation, those experiences.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I had chills. Yeah. And it makes me think about just the whole thing with trauma is it's not about what the person intended. It's about how it was received
Yeah.
and how all these moments, like you hearing the laughter and who knows, Sam, just for all of us, just these little moments that happen as we're growing up and becoming whoever it is that we
Sure.
are,
Sure.
that are implanting loud and clear messages about how how much does my voice matter. I feel like one of the most common things people say to themselves if they're considering speaking up is, it doesn't really matter so much. I'll just let the meeting continue. And it doesn't seem so dramatic, but years and years of just being passive and taking a back seat will really stack up in your body. And it is so fucking powerful that you spoke to what you knew you needed to do in your marriage. And that must have been the beginning of just a whole cascade of expansion and beautiful growth. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I had another girlfriend on the podcast recently who Gretchen Hill, who's just amazing. She's 44, she's single,
Oh,
she is choosing that she wants to be a mother, so she's going through donor conception and she's like
amazing.
this wild amazing path that I just find fascinating and so powerful and inspiring. And she was sharing about her leaving her last, I think, yeah, she was married, leaving her marriage when she realized that her partner didn't want a child and she did. And that interesting space from knowing what you desire and what you want to then actually voicing it. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that, going from that internal knowing to then the process of being able to speak it. Do you have thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah. Yeah. And well, a couple things come to mind. I mean, when we have an impulse, and I'll use that word impulse, we have thoughts all the time. We don't speak every thought out loud, which is probably a good thing. But once in a while, it's attached to a desire to communicate, and that becomes an electrical signal in the nervous system. It travels through your spine. It activates the breath. The breath then contacts the throat where the vocal folds are. That whole process happens in a microsecond. It's amazing how when the voice is really free and available to impulse, it happens so quickly. And all of us know that. I have a dog at home, Rocky, who a few weeks ago I was walking him, and I don't quite know what happened. I had like my phone in one hand. I was a little distracted. The leash got away from me, and he didn't like run away, but he trotted toward the sidewalk. I live in New York City, enough for me to have a full body visceral, and I won't make the sound I made right now for the sake of your mic, but the sound that instantly came out of me needing him, and he really responded and stopped. And it wasn't me like scolding him, it was just like the need to keep him safe. So we of course have access to that in heightened moments, but it is amazing how that process can get into the muck when our ever so useful but intellect, our head brain, wants to start to dominate and interrupt. So we get very good at going into secondary impulses, where it's like we have an impulse and then we kind of route it into something new. And I don't know, I mean, for me, and I imagine what you felt in your experience describing, that it's like there's this pile-up effect. If over time, if it's over and over and over, I just keep subverting that strong impulse for a secondary impulse, it gets to the point where my body is yelling at me. I feel tired. I feel anxious. I feel my whole body is begging me to release into what that truth is. And it's amazing how different I feel when I do that. I don't know if that
Yeah.
lands or if that
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. Well, it's like you said something earlier about being in the habit of something, and I forget exactly what it was, but that's what I see happening with my clients. The woman
Mm,
who is in her faculty meeting and she's terrified to speak up and she's got hives and she's turning red and she
yeah,
just feels less than, and she knows that she's meant for more and she's fighting that, but she's just been in the habit of
yeah,
being small, of not using her voice, and not probably not breathing. Now that we're
yeah,
bringing forward the breath, I think about the woman who's in the corporate job, who, and these are actual clients that I've had, who really desires more and is just feeling stuck, but she's been in the habit of feeling stuck. And so
totally.
I'm seeing this habit of pushing away those impulses, as you say, and just continuing to do this habit. And that's where I'm sure your work with the breath and the voice is we're relearning new habits, or really uncovering your
Yeah,
original ability to breathe and speak. And it's the
yeah,
same in my work. It's we're uncovering, we're like washing the windows of all the muck
mm,
and the dirt and the programming so that you can see clearly into who you were always meant to be. I talk
yeah,
so much about the person who feels like they're meant for more. And like that is not crazy. You probably are, except you've
mhm,
been taught these habits of playing small, the habit of not honoring yourself, not honoring your no or honoring your yes, not
yeah,
honoring those deeper desires or those natural impulses towards joy and play and fulfillment and
mhm,
expression and freedom. And so, what I feel like we're doing is, I always say we're like unbecoming so that we can become who we've always been.
yeah.
And what's coming through for me right now is just this habit piece. And I've never looked at it through the lens of habit, but as you speak into these different impulses, I'm like, oh, it's the habit. We're in
Yeah,
the habit of playing these roles versus being our true selves.
totally. And those habits have really served us is the thing.
Yeah,
And they're protective habits. It's
sure.
so it's to go, okay, thank you so much. And also, I'm probably not going to ever say goodbye to you forever, but I'm going to know how to keep you here on the shelf. I will totally armor back up if I feel like I need to.
Sure.
Uh, but I know how to set that down and shift into something new. And what you said is so powerful about just, yeah, the habit of playing small. I work with women who they're getting promoted at work and they're going, oh my God, they're asking me to talk more. And it's
Fuck
so
yeah.
scary. And so it's like, yay, but oh shit, now I have to lead meetings and presentations but it's like two feelings at once. There's some dread, yes, but you can feel that deep down they're on the right track. And the cool thing about stepping into those uncomfortable moments, and it's like you said, I mean, the body, yeah, we'll get hives sometimes, or, the full fight or flight response is so intense. Our face gets red, we get tunnel vision. But every time you do that and do it anyway, do it scared, and you don't die, your body next time is like, okay, well, maybe this isn't so much of a threat. Maybe I could do it again. So it's really hard, but it's really amazing to just keep stepping in.
Yeah, it's like we're building those new data points. I talk to my clients like you have a new opportunity right here to build a data point or create a new neural pathway. But it's a lot easier to understand like we're creating a new data point that's saying this is possible and I am capable. And I'm curious if you have any, and I have no idea, but do you have any breath or vocal exercises that you could share with us for women to practice using their voice?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a big fan of humming in order to guide the
Yeah.
voice into these bony spaces. For a lot of folks, everyone's different, but a really common habit is for the voice to kind of rest back on the throat and feel like there's not as much momentum or energy or a sense of release coming into the voice. So one thing you can do is start to literally feel your vibrations contacting your bones. So, we can start to hum a little bit and feel how all around the head, and even just staying in sort of a mid-range speaking pitch. I do also find it helpful to, we're not singing, but I use the word sigh a lot. Speaking of my dog, Rocky, when he's lying on the couch, anyone with a dog at home, I'm sure you notice that your dog sighs naturally every once in a while.
Yeah.
And we also have that impulse, but we get conditioned out of sighing because people, if they hear that, they think it's rude or something. But our body needs to sigh periodically. So the sigh meaning there's an immediate release of breath, and the breath is the blueprint for your voice. So in humming, you're going to bring vibration along with your sigh. So we can kind of sigh to wherever your hands are touching your head and warming up resonance all through the head.
And if you're listening,
Like,
yeah, and if you're listening, I want you to know that Hayley's got her hands on her head, on her
yeah.
cheeks, on the back of her head.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just reminding myself how three-dimensional my voice is and how dimensionally I can vibrate. And then what I love to do is to reunite with my diaphragm. So if you're just listening, I'm just going to put my hands around my solar plexus, which I'm sure if you listen to Sam's amazing work, you know where that power center is. But, around the diaphragm, just giving that a bit of a shake to kind of free up. It's like I'm freeing a thought from my middle. And then I'm going to gather it on a hum at the front of my face. And then I'm going to release it out to the world. So it's like my thought is traveling from inside to these resonators and then out into the world. So it goes something like this. Ha ha ma. Kind of releasing through. And that's going to really encourage a sense of flow and energy. And that's what this is about. It's like, I have a point of focus that I have a desire to communicate to. Can I feel my voice landing on that person or that audience that I wish to affect and not just feel like I'm resting back on my throat?
That is so good. That's so
Yeah.
good. I think we're gonna need to make that a clip, like a visual clip on Instagram so people can see that because that's
Yeah.
fucking awesome. Um, I want to come back to what you said too about the sigh. This is something that I also noticed from our dance conditioning and really school in general, that you
Yeah.
yawning or sighing was seen as a sign of disrespect. And I remember like
Yep.
literally being in ballet class, like melting my lips together and trying to hold in a yawn. And
Yep.
now, as I'm in energy work, we look for those signs. I am pumped if my client is on a call or a Zoom with me and she's yawning and she's
Yep.
sighing. It is actually a sign of energetic release. It is a way that our nervous systems get us back into parasympathetic rest and digest, like that phase that we want to be in. And
Yeah.
so I just love like full permission to be in the sigh, full permission to be in the
Yeah.
yawn. It's your body doing its job.
Exactly. And I tend to start every class and every warm up with a big old yawn and stretch.
Yeah.
That's like the first place we start.
Mm.
And uh, it is sort of wild to think about how we get conditioned out of doing that. Animals are always, yeah, just, the yawn and the stretch. Just, we are animals in animal bodies. And can I uh, give myself permission once in a while to really be in that body? It's such a
Yeah.
relief.
Mm. Totally. And I feel I was just talking to someone yesterday about this about I feel like energetically there's this reclamation of our animal bodies. There's this return to dance, to movement, to I love this using the voice. I really feel like we are remembering. We're remembering. We're
Yeah.
remembering our truth and we're allowing our bodies to work with us versus working against our bodies. I don't know how many women I have talked to, coached, worked with that have had a past of eating disorders, disordered eating, body dysmorphia, all of these things that are now really stepping into this embodiment space, reclaiming the power of their bodies. And I really believe our
Yeah.
bodies are our portal to our power. If we are connected and we are dropped in, we're able to access things that we're unable to access when we're up and out, when we're not fully in the body.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And
Yeah.
we know that vibrations have this inherent healing, powerful quality. I mean, the whole universe is vibration, and uh,
Yeah.
humming can be healing in the same way that a sound bath is healing, and that but your own vibrations can also heal and reawaken and reconnect you with all these different facets of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much power in it. Freaking love it. Hayley,
Yeah.
have we I'm sure there's a million things that we could touch on in this space and in the technique that you teach, but is there anything right now that you're like, "Ooh, I really want to drop this in here?" Is there anything we haven't touched on that you want to call forward?
I I just want people to know that if if they're struggling with their voice, that's not a personal issue. We're all grappling with our own journeys, and voice is so rooted in identity. And
Mm,
I really feel so honored to lead work like this because people are putting their identities in my hands
yeah.
and being like, "Can you help me understand why this is so hard?" and and as things start to release, it is really emotional.
Yeah.
Um, I worked with a woman who had kind of banished the parts of her voice that society might label as more feminine. She's moving through the world trying to demand respect and kind of shoving her voice down into a more masculine pitch. And when we got her vibrating up in these upper resonators again, she completely she felt like she was hearing uh like a ghost of herself that she had not connected with in
Wow.
years. It was really, really emotional. And so I just want to encourage and inspire people to just go through their lives being interested in how you can keep reclaiming your power, whether that's through voice work, somatic work, the amazing work you do, Sam, and that it can be a lifelong journey. And that's kind of gorgeous.
Yeah, it's the never ending journey. Every time you think you get somewhere, you're like, "Fuck, this is happening again?
Shit.
Like, shit, didn't I heal
Yeah.
this?"
Yeah. I had a day with my therapist the other day where I was like, what if I just stay like this? Is that okay? I'm tired of trying to get over those things that keep showing up. But we just
Oh
got to
my
keep
god.
showing up. It's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I as you were sharing about that client, I think that's just so powerful and so beautiful. And it reminds me of the work that I do with Primal Screaming. And when I have a client do this, or when honestly, when I first did this, that was a big part of my like reclamation of not just my wild woman and the embodiment of that, but really being in the permission of sacred rage expression. So I
Oh,
have felt a lot of rage and frustration and anger in my life. Like if I go somewhere, it's actually to the rage and to the anger.
yes.
And I'm definitely in the fight or flight. I'm a fighter. And
I
so
love that for you.
I'm like quite spicy. High fodder. And so I never had the permission or the information on how to express that in a way that wasn't like go to a boxing class and punch the wall or rage
Right.
sprint. Like it wasn't connected to my voice, right? And so
Right.
being given a space where I could access that and feel that power of that
Mhm.
voice and the breath coming up and out from the root. Like literally, it felt like it was cleansing my
Oh,
entire central channel, all of my energy centers, all of my chakras. Like it was from
yeah.
the depths and not even just of this body, but it was like the depths of my ancestral lineage, my past lives. Like it was
Yeah.
accessing power like I had never experienced before.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful, and it's another one of those exercises where I feel like it is such an activator and an expander that it almost feels like the opposite of finding like the high notes and the like the femininity within that. I felt like I went into this guttural primal space which I had never given myself permission to be in. So I love
Yeah.
these nuances of all of these different colors and ways of
Yes.
expressing. It's just so cool to
Yeah.
me.
I want the person's voice to be as dimensional and multifaceted as the person is. That's what I wish for my clients. That the voice can contain multitudes, just like we
Fuck yeah.
do. That's so gorgeous, Sam. I want to do some primal screaming with you. Can I
Oh my
can I come
god,
do that with you
yes.
sometime?
Wait, no, I'm
Great.
so excited because we're doing, I don't know when this podcast is going to come out. It might be before or after, but we're doing a retreat in Temecula, which I'm
Yeah.
super excited for. But we're also, this is like secret. So if you're listening to this interview, you're getting top secret information. We are also doing a wild woman retreat in the jungles of Mexico. And it is like, we're going to be, in the jungle in these really cool little like eco huts. And it is going to include some primal screaming and truly getting into that body, unleashing that. I don't even want to call it dark feminine because I just think it's a facet of the feminine, but really playing with the structures of who we're taught to be and that like pretty girl or nice girl or all of
Yeah.
those things, really challenging that conditioning and
Mhm.
allowing this energy to come up and out because it's so expansive, it's so healing, it's so activating. So I'm
Yeah.
freaking excited about that. And I just like couldn't not share it right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to talk to you about that. I want to see
Yeah,
it.
we'll talk
Great.
about it.
Great. Great.
Yeah. So, Haley, this has been so, so good, so juicy.
Wow.
It's funny, as we've been talking, it's really
Yeah.
interesting. Right before we got on, I was noticing some throat stuff, like my whatever throat chakra stuff. So I don't know if this is for you, for me, for the collective, for whoever's listening to this, but I actually feel the throat stuff energetically moving and working. Like I've coughed, I've muted myself, but I've coughed a bunch of times on this. And for me,
Wow.
that's always a sign that there's energy moving through our
Okay.
throats. So I am just feeling like this conversation is going to be activating a lot of healing and expansion. And I have full chills as I say this. So I know that I know that I'm on track. But it's just been fascinating to feel that. I'm like, why am I coughing over here? But of course I
Things are
am.
moving.
So yeah, we're moving the energy, my friends. I'm moving it for you so that you can step out, declare, voice, be connected to that form of your expression. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Really. Is there anything else you feel like you want to drop in? One last thing for the listener, anything we haven't touched on?
No, speak up, my friends. We need your voices. We need your ideas. If you're scared, do it anyway. And
Yeah.
I love every single one of you. Speak up.
Speak up. I love it. Hayley, where can people find you if they want to work with you?
My coaching company is called M.F.A Voice. I have a website. I have a pretty active Instagram presence. I'm branching more into YouTube this summer. So you can find me in all sorts of places at M.F.A Voice.
Awesome. We'll link it in the show notes too, but I want to make sure that people hear it as well. Woo! Girlfriend, this has been quite a conversation. My final question for you is you are in an elevator, a woman looks at you and she's like, how do I live my life full out? What do you tell her? You got from floor 0 to floor 11.
Yeah. Follow your gut. If you're nervous, do it anyway. And do not let anyone else tell you what your life is supposed to look like. Just fucking go with where your gut is grabbing you.
Just fucking go. I love it. Friends, if you loved this podcast episode, if you found value in it, do us a favor, take a screenshot, share it with a friend, put it on social media, tag us at Samantha Jo Harvey and at
M.F.A Voice.
Perfect. We would love to hear your takeaways, and we just so appreciate you being here. Let's raise the vibration of humans on the planet. Have the best day. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much for joining me. If today's podcast inspired you in any way, we would love your support in spreading the word. Please subscribe, rate, and review, and let the other queens in your life know that they are also worthy of living life full out. If you want to continue the conversation, I'd love to connect with you on Instagram or Facebook at Samantha Jo Harvey. Have a fabulous day, and I'll see you next time.